You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Sorry, I was worried so much about my headphones being extremely loud that I forgot that I should open with this sound. Now I can't hear anything at all. I did give Justin a thumbs up when he was done adjusting it.
I don't think Andrew knew that I adjusted it, so he was going in to try to fix the problem because the first knob that I adjusted was Andrew's headphones.
Oh, gotcha.
So he noticed that his went down. Also, I think we need a new intro video because now that I can see it, because Andrew gave us this nice screen so we can interact well with the people we bring in on Zoom.
Yeah.
Two things. One is I see myself without a beard and it looks weird.
Yeah.
Super weird. And number two, I have there's a video from a Hoquiam basketball game that we have clips of in there.
Yep.
In which when I created the highlight video, I put the wrong date on it. So every time I see it, I'm like, okay, the wrong date's on that video. And it only bothers me.
Right.
But it's, I think we need a new intro video.
Yeah, we might.
Yeah.
We are going to have a guest on this show. And I bring that up right now because he just texted me no link. So I'm assuming he's waiting for a Zoom link.
Yeah.
So, Ian, we started a little later than we were expecting because of
For completely normal reasons.
Well, they are completely normal, but also regularly occurring reasons. I made us late.
You know what, though?
But
Daniel,
also, the reasons that I was late today is because my 7-month-old does not like sleep. And so the last few nights have been rough.
You have 2 small children.
Yes.
And a baby.
Wait.
1 baby and 2 small children.
Wait, we don't have 3 kids?
No.
Oh.
You have 2 small children
Okay.
and one of them's a baby.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
And while your tardiness issue for a while was very regular, it has been significantly less lately.
Oh.
So I think you get like one
Okay.
every once in a while where, hey, I was running 10 or 15 minutes late.
I appreciate that.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Because I was late because I went and got coffee before I came to pick you up because I didn't want to fall asleep on the show.
You know how many times I have decided to be late for something to get coffee?
A lot.
That's a good decision.
Okay, good, because I do it a lot, too.
Yeah, a lot.
Like, Courtney and I will be like a half hour late to church sometimes, and I'm like, should we stop and get coffee on the way?
Yeah, because if you're half hour late, you can't get coffee at the coffee stand at the church.
Right? And you're already a half hour late. What's another 10 minutes going to do?
Good point.
I just looked over at Pax, and he misjudged his own size before he lied down, so his head is like crinkled up against the chair that he's laying down. He's like, eh. Anyway.
I mean, he could just move, but it's a lot of body to move.
Exactly. The sound I should have made to open the show was... And just picture Arrested Development when, what's his name? When George Michael is just walking with his head down.
Yeah.
Because that's
a
life.
Charlie Brown thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just life.
But we're doing it as an Arrested Development.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. I got you.
It's more recent. It's more current.
True.
You know? Yeah. That's just life as a Mariners fan.
Uh-huh.
I have never in my life, Justin, before this week, thought, oh, maybe Anchor should just go play for another, like, really successful school somewhere. Like, that's never popped into my brain at all. Mm-hmm. But that's where the trail of thinking this week took me, because I was like, as I listened to my son, who's just learning how to say baseball, immediately start learning how to say Mariners, I thought to myself, oh man, I am subjecting this tiny human to a lifetime of disappointment by being a Mariners fan myself. And I thought maybe I, for his sake, should become a Dodgers fan. Like, come on, it's better than being a Yankees fan.
Better.
Francis,
Is it?
gross.
Better.
Slightly?
Yes.
It is. Well, hey, the Dodgers are more new to the game of just buying
Or is
everything.
it just because the Yankees aren't good?
No. Not at all. Okay, what perennially successful team should I then, if not the Dodgers? I figured the Dodgers were the least gross team that will constantly win.
That's probably true.
Right?
But if you had done this same exercise about 20 years ago, you would have become a Yankees fan. And right now, Yankees fans are not happy.
No, I wouldn't have been a Yankees fan because they're still gross.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Does
look
that make
on your,
sense?
when I said you would have been a Yankees fan, you made a face that was like you were going to vomit.
I almost had a stroke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that line of thinking was like, man, what if I should do this with other things in his life? And then I was like,
Just
no.
completely throw the character development to
But
the
then-
wind. Be like, nope, you'll just be a front runner.
Exactly. And then
Yell it up like Uncle Justin.
you know what? It still came back to selfishness, Andrew, because it ended up stopping because I was like, no, if I do that, then I can't feel superior to Justin when talking about loyalty. And so I was like, can't do it. I have to be able to feel superior in some regard.
Yeah. And that superiority is all in your head. But anyway, this is the scrimmage. By the way, I'm Justin Domashevitz, Daniel Hargrove here with me, as well as producer Andrew Gross. And as Daniel mentioned, we're going to have a special guest. KWOK's Ian Cope, the voice of Grays Harbor Sports, is going to come on and help Daniel recap the Elma football Hoquiam game, which they both broadcasted together on
Basically,
Friday.
he'll be there to make sure I don't just talk about Ethan Camus the whole time.
Yeah.
Because I would.
Well, you are the founding member of the Ethan Camus fan club, I believe. Also president, treasurer,
And secretary.
secretary, and vice president, I think, is what happened there.
That sounds like nepotism.
You know what? You can get out.
Let's get it going with the 2-minute drill.
Let's go, huddle up. Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball around. Gonna do it right. 3 jet Buckeye, don't worry.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
Daniel, do the Mariners stink, and do you hate them?
Purely visceral response that I'll probably want to take back in about 2 hours. Julio stinks and I hate him. The Portland Trailblazers finally dealt Damian Lillard this week. Another sucker punch to the gonads, but not to the team everyone expected him to go to. Portland sent Dame to the Milwaukee Bucks, and as the centerpiece of the deal, got 25-year-old center DeAndre Ayton. Justin, were you surprised Dame didn't end up in Miami? And were you happy with the return?
If you had asked me 2 weeks ago whether I'd be surprised if Dame ended up anywhere besides Miami, I'd say definitely yes. But as time went on, it started to become very obvious that things weren't progressing in Miami and that other teams could get into the fold. I did keep hearing people say the Milwaukee Bucks came out of nowhere, and I don't think that's completely accurate because I was hearing a lot of rumors on Twitter, maybe in the 3 or 4 days leading up to it. But overall, I'd say I'm a little surprised he didn't go to Miami, and I'm pretty happy with the return, even though the return isn't a Dame-level return, but I think it's much better than what you would have gotten otherwise. The Seattle Seahawks will face the New York Giants on Monday night in New York. Daniel, will your Seahawks take down the mighty Giants? Nephilim.
I don't think the mighty Giants have been mighty for a long time. So yeah, the Seahawks are gonna roll in this one. I started Geno in fantasy this week over Dak Prescott.
Oh, no.
Geno's gonna put up like 50 points, or the complete opposite's gonna happen because I started Geno in fantasy this week. Yeah, Justin, do the Mariners stink and do you hate them?
Yes.
I was so close to, I mean, the new age people would call it manifesting.
Okay.
I was so close to manifesting a comeback on Saturday night for the Mariners. Did you see my message right before the 5th inning? I think it was the 5th inning. I said the Mariners are going to score 5 runs this inning. And they got the bases loaded.
Yeah, I was watching at that point.
And then Julio puked all over everything.
And in a way
It was so bad.
that was gross. Like, it was like...
In a way.
In a way that was
Puke
disgusting.
often is disgusting.
I think it was shocking to me that not only the swing that he took, but the pitch that he chased in that scenario kind of like confirmed to me, oh, this is what Daniel and Andrew have been talking about for the last year.
Yeah.
Is that when Julio gets up there in these crunch time situations, he not only fails, but he looks bad.
Looks so bad.
Because you can fail 2 out of 3 times as a baseball player, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But when you're the best player on the team, you can't fail looking like that.
Yeah. And it got to the point where every now and then I'd watch a national broadcast, or even like one time I was watching the Dodgers broadcast. And they were like, oh, they decided to walk Julio here, but I really wanted to see this matchup of Julio versus whatever pitcher they had throwing. And I was like, why? It would be fastball strike, slider strike, curveball strike, 3 feet off the plate. I was like, the Dodgers did us a favor by walking Julio here. What, like,
Yesterday,
barf.
my response, as Julio got up, I was like, Julio, just
Don't swing.
more than 3 pitches. Just see more than 3 pitches. And then he heard me and was like, no, screw you, Andrew. I'm going to get out in 2 pitches.
Yeah. I think I actually did hear him say that during the broadcast. Screw you, Andrew.
He looked right at one of the cameras.
Yeah. He said something like, I'm going to take a page out of the book of my favorite podcast co-host and say, screw you, which is my catchphrase. Obviously, he was talking about me.
Yeah.
But I say, screw you, listeners. He said, screw you, Andrew.
Yep. Really close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar.
Basically, Julio's a big fan of me.
Yeah. And we all knew that already. Really quick, because it's not anywhere on here, the Beavers just took down a top 10 team.
Yes.
So both the Beavs and the Cougs should rise in the standings,
They should,
right?
But will they?
But will they?
That remains to be seen.
Well, the Beavers are going to go up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, undoubtedly.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
And I'm just going to say this just proves what I'm thinking that the carnage of the Pac-12 is going to be this year.
You know what's crazy, though?
Cougs take out the Beavs. Next week, Beavs take out top 10 Utah and make them look not great. Like, it should have been a shutout.
This is the kind of thing that we would always talk about.
Yeah.
And you would rant about. These conversations are happening on national media now.
What?
Where they're going, look at all these good teams in the Pac-12. They're
Wow.
going to do the thing they do every year and beat up on each other. I literally heard that on a national podcast this week.
And they said every year?
They said this is what happens every year.
Like they've known about this and yet
Yeah.
still have just been gargling the SEC and the
Yeah.
Big Ten constantly?
Also, they admitted openly on the same podcast
Oh my gosh.
that the SEC is the 3rd best conference in the country.
And yet Georgia's still going to be number 1.
But people are saying, like, they're going to be number 1 till they lose.
They won't lose. They're playing a bunch of cupcakes.
But
I have
they
a
have not
theory.
looked right the last few weeks.
no, they barely. Who did they barely beat this week? It was
Some weak SEC team.
Yeah, some really weak SEC team. It wasn't Vanderbilt.
No.
I-
Was it
But,
A&M? Was it Texas A&M?
Maybe. Yeah.
I have a theory, and I'm not sure how accurate it is because it's undoubtedly tinged with hope. But this realignment that is being driven by the big networks, I'm looking at you at ESPN mostly, but
Yep.
also Fox, I think that it's waking up a lot of the college football community.
It should.
Like I think it's starting to, and especially I've been thinking about this as over this last weekend with College Game Day, taking shots at the Cougars and Beavs again, and there's a lot of
Wait, they did it
people-
again this weekend?
Yeah.
What? I'm so ticked.
It's
so mad.
yes,
So
it's becoming more and more obvious that the networks are doing their own thing, and that the people, the front and center talking heads on the networks have no idea. Like they're not. It isn't even that they're dumb. They're just not saying things that are accurate. They're saying things that serve the purposes of the networks.
Yeah.
And so when they say, oh, this team's really, really good and this is going to be a really, really good matchup, that doesn't mean anything from a football perspective. That means this matchup is in our best time slot and we want you to watch it. And people are waking up to that, I think. And I don't know if it'll matter.
It won't matter.
But I do think people are starting to notice.
Because even if people wake up, people don't have billions of dollars. The networks have billions of dollars. I wonder if USC is going to drop it all because they almost gacked up a loss to Colorado. Did you see that?
No, that's just
I saw the final score.
Colorado ranked.
Right. There
Colorado's not ranked right now, though.
Yeah, that's true. But USC was up 28 points.
Yeah.
And they only won by 7.
I know that was the funny little text thing we had with Ian.
Right.
Because he said something about Colorado being way overhyped and that it was over now.
Yep.
And then at the end of the game, he saw the score and was like, oh, I guess USC's overrated too.
I missed the previous part of that.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because didn't talk much Beavs last week, but they're still ranked. They're still a great team.
Yep.
I'm just even more impressed with Wazoo right now.
Well, and the Cougs didn't play this week.
Yep.
So we don't get to have like did the Cougs falter? Like,
right.
I think it's going to be really interesting considering the fact that Oregon, Washington, Oregon State, and Washington State are all very good this year.
Yeah,
this is going to be an interesting talking point throughout the season.
I honestly think that the Pac-12 is just going to be littered with 2 lost teams at the top.
Yeah, very possible.
Yeah. Because do I think Oregon State can beat UW and Oregon? Yes. Do I think they're going to beat both of them? That's a tall task. That's the tough.
Yeah.
But I think they probably will beat one of them, which a bunch of people would probably be like, you're crazy.
Well, you are crazy, but for different reasons.
Which would you rather they beat? Because beating Washington would give them a better, like Washington's better ranked.
Yeah.
But
beating Oregon especially this year. Especially since Oregon's one of the teams leaving.
Yeah.
And it's like, could be the last Civil War game.
It's like your last shot at a conference victory over
and
the Ducks.
and to have it be 2 in a row. Like, hey, except this time I want it to be like a decimation. Like last year was a decimation of their manhood because it was like, hey, we can't throw the ball. We literally can't throw the ball, but we're going to run on you and make a huge comeback only running the ball. And then this year, if they just smoked them like 28-0. Oh, Eugene.
Maybe 28.
Eugene, Oregon.
It's the worst.
Sorry, Andrew.
I was just saying, maybe 28-6, just to try to keep you from being too disappointed.
Oh, so they miss
the
an
other
extra
team
point.
Scores.
That might make it better. Not 28-0, but if it's 28-6 and it's because they missed an extra point.
Oh, that's funny.
Andrew, before we move off of college football, do you have any Coug takes you want to throw out?
Oh, real quick, my dad says Beavs play UW at home and Oregon on the road. So they're going to win both of those games. So
Awesome.
Perfect. Go Beavs.
I don't think I have anything else other than we didn't even play this week and we were still like all over the place in social media and stuff because College Game Days can't just let it lie.
Then let's move on to my favorite part of the show.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
Stump Daniel is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. And
what's the A stand for?
it's,
Athenius.
Albert.
That's not even a name.
No, well, you just kind of
Andre.
came up with that. So one of these days I'll tell you.
Aaron.
But it's more fun not to tell you.
That's true.
There's something about middle names where it's like I ran into the same problem not a problem. It's good for me. I was at work the other day, and one of my coworkers knew that my son's middle name starts with a J, and he was like, "Well, what is it?" And I was like, and he just starts throwing J names out there, and I was like, "No."
There's like a million J
And
names.
it doesn't matter at all.
Right.
Like I could just tell him.
Right.
But it's more fun to that he's just tormented by it.
because you just like to be a jerk.
So take that, Francis. Anyway,
now I'm all for it.
Daniel, I was thinking since the Mariners season is officially over and they won 88 games, what I want to know from you.
And in true Mariners fashion, they win the last game, which makes something else awful happen.
True.
Like when they won the last game and didn't get Steven Strasburg.
Yep.
This time they won the last game, and so the Astros are the division champs.
Which just really, that's the worst
It's
case
the
scenario.
That really is.
It's just the
It's
worst.
so bad.
I had not thought about that.
It's disgusting. Anyway,
They tried not to win. They only scored one run.
Daniel, in 2001,
we'll get more on that later.
the Mariners broke the record for wins in a season. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard that.
116 wins. Mm-hmm. So since 2001,
Right.
how many times have the Mariners won 88 or more games in a season? Now go back in your head in the Rolodex of all Mariners seasons, and you can tell me how many times they have done this.
Okay, they did it in 2002.
Okay, so that's one.
They did it. Does this year count?
No.
Okay. They did it last year
Okay.
and the year before that.
Okay.
And in 2018
Okay.
or 19.
You don't have to know the year.
I'm going to say they did it 5 times.
You're so close.
Is it 6 or 4?
It's 6.
6? Okay.
And
I want to hear the years too. Do you
yeah,
know the
I
years?
have
Okay.
all of it.
Okay, good.
So after they won the 116 games, they teased us
Yeah.
by winning 93 games 2 years in a row, but not making the playoffs.
It was 2 years in a
2
row.
years in a row.
Isn't
They
that-
barely missed the playoffs with 93.
93 wins and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
How brutal is that?
That's awful. And by the way, we were all like, don't worry about it. We'll be back next year.
Yeah, typical Seattle response to
Then
everything.
in 2004, they
Seahawks
won.
lose the Super Bowl. Oh, we'll be back next year.
In 2004, they lost 99 games. And in 2005, they only won 69 games. But in 2007, a resurgent Mariners team led by
Mike Hargrove?
Raul Ibanez,
Oh.
Richie Sexson, and Adrian Beltre.
Those were supposed to be the return. We spent big on Sexton and Beltre.
They won 88 games. Did not make the playoffs. Then again in 2018. So by the way, that is an 11-year gap. In 2018,
It was rough in between there too.
that's the dead. when we talk about the dead space of Mariners baseball, that's what we're talking
Yep.
about.
I'm sorry, I keep accidentally hitting this. You took the blitz ball and I
did.
took the.
I
red
taunted
bottle
you with it
opener.
when I picked it up too. Did you notice?
I didn't.
I was holding it up like this and just kind of spinning it in front of your face.
Then I
so
grabbed
you'd
the
know.
red.
I have the blitz ball today. In 2018, Daniel, a Robinson Cano, Nelson Cruz, Kyle Seager-led team
Yeah.
won 89 games
Yep.
and did not make the playoffs.
Yep.
Then the last 2 seasons before this season, the Mariners won 90 games in each of those seasons. The real outlier here is 2020. They only won 27 games. Like, what happened there?
Wait, wasn't that
Brutal year. Brutal.
That was the shortened season, right?
Absolutely
Okay.
brutal.
Yeah, they were 27 and 33. So actually not as nearly as bad as some of these other ones.
Yeah.
So the answer is 6, and the reason that I brought this up because I was looking at it going, all right, they won 90 games, 88 games. Like, they're kind of holding steady.
Yeah.
But, like, by comparison to some of these older seasons, how bad is that really?
Oh, wait. Comparison to the dead zone?
Yeah.
Do you want to compare yourself to something labeled the dead zone?
Well, I want to compare it to the half rebuilds. So you have the half rebuild of 2007 when they went hard on Adrian Beltre and Richie Sexson as free agent signings, and they managed only 88 wins. And that was the best season they had with that core.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, you had the half rebuild core of the huge signing of Robinson Cano, and then the medium signing of Nelson Cruz, which ended up being great.
Yes.
And then also...
Which, would have been nice to have Nelson this year.
Kyle Seager being the surprise development between him and Dustin Ackley as a great player, which at that year in 2018, that was the best 3-4-5 across the league. So now we have a Mariners rebuild, a full rebuild,
Hey.
was it 2019 when Jerry DiPoto said, hey, Don't pay attention for like 4 years. We're going to be good in like 4 years.
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's now.
Yep.
And the season ended with a fart.
Yep. And the painful part, are you done? Was that the only question?
That's it.
So we can cut the music and continue on with this.
Mariners post-mortem is the next thing on the show sheet.
Yeah, well, you can leave the music if you want. It's as depressing as everything else. They
stink?
Yeah, and I think it would be less painful.
Was that for the Mariners? The
Yes.
Wawa? Okay.
It'd be less painful if the Orioles weren't like, oh yeah, we're on like the same trajectory except for a year behind the Mariners.
And then they won 100.
Except they won 100 games this year.
They won 102. Did they win 102?
Either 101 or 102. I don't know. But like, it's so...
And they play in the hardest division in the majors.
Well, we would... Yeah, I guess they are harder because they have them in Tampa, who are better than our top two teams. And then they stole the last wild card, and we failed. Yeah. Also in that time frame, Justin, since 2014, the Mariners have been eliminated on game 161 or 162 4 times. There's been one other team in that time frame that has had that happen to them twice, and only 8 teams total. So not only have the Mariners been bad, but the most painful way possible. Like, stab you in the throat.
I would.
Sorry. It's all I can...
Very violent.
I said that Julio sucks and I hate him at one point in this show.
Yeah.
That's my headspace right now. I'm not healthy.
It's more disappointing, but it's not worse. That's the thing, is that they're getting eliminated right at the end of the season because they're not horrible.
Feels
they're
worse.
just
It
completely
feels-
mediocre.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as a defense. I'm saying like they never even are bad enough that they can be good later.
I think Daniel's admitting it's an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Andrew, you can get out of here with your logic, all right?
Look, when I get really emotional, I get logical. I can't help it.
That's a serious problem. You need to see someone about that.
The thing that I'm worried the most about, and I had this thought earlier in the year, because Julio put up all these massive numbers, right? Like, as much as it seemed like Julio was struggling this year, it still felt weird. And when they played the Royals in that crazy series, I literally said, I think I'd rather have Bobby Witt Jr. than Julio Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. And that hurt me to say it, but I think that's the case. And then Julio went nuts right after that. And he did something that literally has never been done before in all of baseball with how many hits he had in 4 games. Literally never been done. And he goes on this insane August, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I like Julio more than Bobby Witt. Maybe I was overreacting. And then September happens, and then these last 10 games happen, and you start to look back at every time you see a big situation happen, and Julio disappears. It's hard to stomach, and that's my biggest worry from the season. It's not the fact that we missed the playoffs by 1 game. Because when you start to think of it logically, you go, okay, yeah, we missed the playoffs by 1 season, but we literally lost Robbie Ray at the start of the season, Marco Gonzalez early on, Flexen you were counting on to be that extra guy, turns out to be garbage again this season, and then your other young pitcher who you were thinking was going to come up and help supplement Miller and Wu. And by the way, Miller and Wu were supposed to be extras, and let's mix them in as well, for a bump too. Emerson Hancock comes up for 1 start, and he gets hurt too. So you lost 4 pitchers who could have helped you this year and helped Bryce Miller and Brian Wu not run into the wall they did at the end of the year. 4 of them. So will that happen next year? Probably not. So you're looking good next year with pitching-wise. Your bullpen fell off a little bit, but this team, that's what they do, is find and develop bullpen arms. So I am fully expecting their bullpen to be awesome again next year. And their bullpen was pretty good this year. I think they were just overused after they traded Sewald. Yet I would still trade Sewald because Rojas and Canzone played big parts in August. So I'd make that trade again. That was the trade-off, right? Yes, it sucked to lose Seawald. Would they be where they were without him? Probably not. But the main thing, the carryover thing that I'm worried about is the guy that you're building everything around. Is he going to grow out of being garbage in big situations? It's reasonable to think he will because he's only 22.
But it's really scary.
It's really scary, and also it's kind of annoying that they're like, that Jerry was like, yeah, 4 years from now. Well, it's 4 years from now, and yet he didn't get anybody to help Julio out. Like, he didn't, because Julio is only 22. So you would think, hey, maybe we should have, another really good player so that not all of the attention is on Julio. Thank goodness JP was like, yeah, I'm going to go next level, be better than I've ever been in my career, because that took some of the attention off Julio. Maybe a little.
JP. We lost internet, and we're back on.
Are we back
I think
on?
we very briefly lost internet there. I'm sorry.
We're back?
Yeah, we should be back.
Sweet, we're back.
This is the risk you run when you live in the boots.
In the woods?
In the woods.
Hey,
I got stuck between the woods and the boonies.
The woonies.
So, in talking about the Mariners and them sucking, I just the part to me that is, I'm not sure if this is the frustrating or worrying, but Daniel, how would you say they ranked in their runs scored per game this year?
Oh, not near as bad as you would think.
Right.
It was
12.
something like 12, right?
12th. It was
Yeah.
12th. And where do you think they ranked in in runs allowed per game?
9th.
Somewhere around there, probably, yeah.
6th.
6th. Wow. So does that sound like a team that should have 88 wins?
No.
No!
That's what's frustrating, because you don't get those numbers and still lose those games unless you are not producing when it's important.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I kept hearing from Salk. If you listen to 710, he kept going, look, this is how many runs they're scoring. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, they're scoring runs, but not at the times when you need them to.
Like during a baseball game?
Or during they would score 8 runs to nothing.
Oh.
And then they would turn around and be like, oh, we're going to lose this game 2-0.
So like the opposite of what they did last year.
Yes.
Where they were winning all those 1-run games.
Exactly. They were the anti-fun differential team this year. They were the opposite of that. They had run differential this year. Yeah, showed how much that works. Great for us compared to last year. Uh-oh. I just inhaled sunflower pollen.
I think you're okay.
Things could get interesting.
Andrew, do you have any other final thoughts on the Mariners before we turn the page to...
Turn the page?
Yeah.
I want to scream about it for another hour. I've been holding this in.
We're going to lose people.
Just
really?
That it was really, really frustrating.
Do we have people to lose?
And it's
Nobody's
hard
commented
to
yet.
It's hard to be confident going forward. There is hope going forward, but I don't feel confident about it.
Yeah. It, honestly, to me...
I've dropped this ball.
I know I've said this a ton of times, and I've said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but if they don't get Shohei Ohtani, I don't understand this front office or the ownership group, because I think Jerry would love to go out and buy somebody who's awesome. Whenever people are like, oh, Jerry can't make a good decision, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he would love to go buy Juan Soto. But if this front office doesn't let you go out and spend a butt ton of money on Shohei Ohtani, who literally will pay for himself,
especially
then I don't
Seattle.
know. Yeah, then I don't know. I don't care if he sets a new record by 10 times. Like, I don't care if they offer him the first $1 billion deal. 10 years, $1 billion. I don't care.
It would be hard to care. It's not your money.
Exactly.
It's only $100 million a year.
But, I mean,
Isn't it?
it sounds nuts, right? Because the $500,000 contracts are close, if not a thing.
Well, like, they're talking about Shohei getting like 50 or 60 million as being the combo pitcher batter thing per year.
Yeah.
So yeah, doubling that with 10 years at $1 billion would feel a little excessive.
It would.
Worth it.
Hashtag worth it. But that's the thing. Like,
But will he ever pitch again?
If
2
you-
Tommy Johns?
Will he ever pitch again? Yes.
yeah.
I don't know if
I
he'll
think
be
he
good.
I don't know. The list of guys who've come back off of 2 Tommy John surgeries is pretty short.
He might not
fairly short.
successfully come back, but he will try.
Yeah.
He will pitch again.
Yeah.
So will he pitch well again? I think is actually
Fair.
a better question.
Fair question.
That is a fair question. But I mean, that's the only redeeming thing they could do with their spending decisions, since this was the target year, right? You mentioned it. Jerry said it so many years ago. They mentioned it last year. Oh, we're a year early this year. Isn't that cool?
That's why they got AJ Pollock for DH.
Okay, we better move on before I lose our explicit rating here.
Colton Wong is an interesting one because it wasn't a bad move on the surface of it, but holy cow, did they take forever?
Yeah.
Like, they gave him so long to figure it out.
And you know what's great?
And then he figured it out once he left, didn't he?
I mean,
I think
a
he's
little.
in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, him and Jesse Winker in the playoffs.
Francis says Otani's going to be a Yankee.
No, he's probably going to be a Dodger, but not a Yankee.
And yes, Pollock is a fish. So's Trout
Yeah.
and salmon.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of fish baseball players.
Yeah.
We need to move on.
Okay.
I'm
Let's
going to
go
have a meltdown.
into a little. I don't want to talk NBA for too long. Or when I said we were going to lose people, we're really going to lose.
Yeah, but I mean, at least we don't lose
you
my
already
dad.
lost me.
My dad wants to know about the Blazers trades.
So I think overall,
So we have one listener.
the move that the Blazers made, while I could understand why people would find it a little underwhelming, because if you were hoping that, hey, we're going to get equal value for the greatest player in the history of our franchise,
Yeah.
it probably wasn't going to happen. There's a little bit of frustration in the fan base, especially after the Chris Haynes piece came out about how essentially, reportedly, allegedly, when Dame realized that the trade wasn't going to happen to Miami, he came back to Joe Cronin, the Portland GM, and said, hey, if you guys aren't going to deal me to Miami, I'd like to come back and play for Portland. And Cronin said no.
Yeah.
And Dame was apparently very taken aback by this, and he just went back and was like, all right, well, if I can't go to Miami and I'm not going to play here, then what are my other options? And so he had his agent call a couple of other teams and say, hey, if you make a deal for me, I'll play for you. And Milwaukee was one of those teams, and Milwaukee's where he ended up. Dame and Giannis have been kind of publicly flirting for the last few years,
Yeah.
whether through all-star drafts, or there was some comment about how, Giannis had said, hey, if I ever wanted to work out with somebody in the offseason, it would be Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
So there's been a little bit of that public flirtation.
And it just Milwaukee feels like a Dame type place.
I think so.
More than Miami. Miami would have felt weird.
Yeah.
But Giannis and Dame both fit Milwaukee.
I would have felt initially like Dame playing for Miami, because what I want more than anything out of this was for him to go to a place that I could still be a Blazers fan, but that I could hope for success for him as well.
Right.
And at first I was like, oh, all right, Miami. Yeah, that's cool. I can root for Miami.
Yep.
But after listening to the way Miami fans and Miami media responded to this whole scenario, it was like, we want Dame. Dame wants to be here, so just give him to us.
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
Tyler Hero's good. It doesn't matter if he doesn't fit on your roster. Just take him. Just give him to us. Please.
Yeah.
Please. We want him. Please. And then complete disregard for the other side of the argument.
Exactly.
So my feel on what the Blazers actually got in return. Number one, they needed either a quality starting big or wing. A big was the number one priority once it became apparent that Nurkic was going to be gone.
Yeah.
A young big was the priority. So bringing Ayton in is a big deal. This has been a 18-point, 10-rebound guy on a team where he's the third option. He's a big, long, tall, extremely skilled scorer, can step out into the mid-range and hit jumpers as well. I think DeAndre Ayton, although the Suns were really eager to get out from under his contract, I think that he's a good fit for what they're trying to build in Portland. The Drew Holiday addition was weird until I immediately heard that they were intending to flip him. When they flipped him, they got some of what people were saying they should have gotten in the first place. Like, hey, you only got a first-round pick and 2 pick swaps in the first trade. So then the second trade comes along, and not only do you add a high-quality defensive center in Robert Williams, who I think you will really like, and you're going to find out his nickname is Time Lord.
I did.
Yeah.
I
So-
Googled him today, and I was like, Time Lord?
Yeah, so you bring in Time Lord, and then you bring in 2 additional first-round picks as part of that trade. And then they bring in Malcolm Brogdon, which is another point guard, and I was like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Then the report comes out immediately, they're going to flip Malcolm Brogdon.
They're just flipping houses right now.
So they're either going to get probably a first-round pick for Brogdon going somewhere, or some kind of a rotational wing.
They could get a first-round pick for him?
That's kind of the initial scuttlebutt, was either you try to get a first-round pick for him. If you can't get a first-round pick for him, you try to get some kind of a rotational wing to jump in and fill the void that you probably lost by trading Nasir Little as part of the Dame trade.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when I look at the overall haul that they got back, I feel better about than what they just got in the initial trade.
Makes sense.
And yeah, Malcolm Brogdon does not fit the timeline of what they're trying to do, and it's a crowded backcourt there already.
Right.
So adding another point guard to it is probably not the best thing. But I think overall, and it remains to be seen, like we'll see how all this plays out, but I think what Joe Cronin was able to do in that scenario, like not only, I'm not pleased with the fact that Dame didn't get to go where he wanted to go, but another thing to keep in mind is that reports coming out of Miami before this happened were that the Heat told the Blazers in the beginning, hey, we have one deal. We have one offer. We're the only team that's offering that he's going to come to, so here's our offer. Take it or leave it.
That's how you get stuff done.
And then the Blazers kind of went, all right, fine, and then just didn't communicate with them for weeks.
Right.
And then by the time other teams started to get involved, once crap had kind of hit the fan, the Heat were like, oh, shoot, we probably should have added more to that trade. And then by that point, they had already missed the boat. So I can kind of see the timeline of how things happened. I understand how he didn't end up at the Heat. But I think Cronin ended up, if you look at the totality of what they're going to get, and we'll see what remains to be seen is what they'll get for Brogdon. But if you look at the entirety of it, I think that what he did makes sense for building a team to be successful within a few years.
I think and that's going to depend on how good Scoot is, right?
How good Scoot is, how good can Shaedon Sharp be?
And Simons.
Can Simons really be like when you're asking him to step in and be the guy in games that matter?
Yeah.
Will he be able to do it? I think Jeremy Grant's a great fit with those guys. And then can DeAndre Ayton get over some of the toxicity that he was dealing with in Phoenix and become a very highly productive player? He's a former number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
So can he be some version of the guy that they thought he could be when they picked him? So I'm optimistic.
Yeah, there's reason for hope, I think, both as a Blazers fan and as a Dame fan.
Agreed.
Because Giannis is real good. And I think Scoot has looked awesome early. So Shaedon Sharp's definitely showed that he can be a highlight reel, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. And Anthony Simons has shown at different times that he can go, he can go Dame time in situations, with like how many points he can put up, just going nuts.
He just hasn't had to do it when it matters.
Exactly. Because he's had Damian Lillard on his team.
Exactly.
So, anyway, reason for optimism. We should move on because we got all the local good stuff coming up. But first, we are going to take a break.
Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Damashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Damashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit damashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
Thank you again to our sponsors, the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz and Spivey Realty Group, the sponsor of our Spivey Athlete of the Week, which we will get to soon. But first, we got a lot to get to, as Justin put in a ton of work on this week's local sports roundup.
Elma's football team went to Olympic Stadium and beat Hoquiam Friday 41-7. The Grizzlies struck first, and the game was tied at 7 at halftime, but the Eagles were shot out of a cannon in the third quarter and came away with a convincing win. Elma senior quarterback Carter Studer passed for 243 yards and 3 touchdowns. Studer's favorite target in the game was Ethan Camus,
EC23,
who hauled in 11 passes for 178 yards and 2 scores. Jacob Meadows caught Studer's other touchdown pass. Cale Reeves,
23 or EC23. I don't know. He needs a nickname. Kid's good.
Cale Reeves and Isaac Phillips each rushed for a tutty for Elma, and Blaze Salazar returned to kick 60 yards to the house.
That was a fun play.
Dominic Stancypher scored Hoquiam's lone touchdown on a 16-yard run and led the Grizzlies with 79 rushing yards. The win gives Elma a great shot at a district crossover in a wide-open Evergreen 1A league. Both teams will be on the road to face winless opponents on Friday. Hoquiam will play a league game against Tenino, and Elma will take on Black Hills.
Third ranked in the state, Montesano remained undefeated and defended its home turf on Friday with a dominant 55-0 win over Shelton, scoring in all 3 phases of the game. Torrin Kreitz returned the opening kick, 77 yards for a touchdown, and the Bulldogs never looked back. Monty continued its hot start, scoring 3 touchdowns in the first 4 minutes of the game. After Kreitz's kick return TD, Tyson Perry hit Mason Rasmussen with a deep ball for a 42-yard score. Then Tarek Gunter scored on a 46-yard scamper. Kreitz added a second touchdown to his stat sheet with a 23-yard pick six late in the first frame. That was all in the first quarter?
Yep.
Gabe Bodwell led all rushers with 138 yards. It's not that many yards, man. I'm just kidding. And 3 touchdowns on just 13 carries. Felix Romero rounded out the scoring with a 14-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. Romero carried the ball twice for 57 yards on that drive. Montesano will host Eatonville on Friday in its league opener.
You know what's funny? Real quick before I move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Anytime I try to type Bodwell into my phone now, it tries to autocorrect to all caps. Because of how many times I've typed Gabe Bodwell in all caps. Sticking with football, Aberdeen beat Black Hills 17-10 on Friday. The Bobcats trailed 10-7 at halftime, but controlled the second half, and a 78-yard rushing touchdown by Marcus Hale with just over 5 minutes left ended up being the difference in the game.
Nice.
Aiden Watkins opened scoring in the first quarter with a 58-yard touchdown run.
Let's go.
And led all rushers in the game with 134 yards on 18 carries.
Workhorse.
Edmund Brown hit a 27-yard field goal in the third quarter for the Bobcats at what head coach Todd Bridge called a pivotal point in the game. Aberdeen improved to 4-1 on the season with the win and will host top-ranked Tumwater on Friday.
Big time. 8th-ranked Raymond South Bend notched an impressive 40-21, demolishing over 7th-ranked Spork Spartans on Friday in South Bend. Austin Snodgrass passed for 194 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 5 completions, 3 of which were touchdown passes to Isaac Schluter, who finished the game with 4 catches for 172 yards and those 3 touchdowns. Athlete of the week. Farrell Johnson led the Ravens' rushing attack with 195 yards and 1 touchdown. Snodgrass rushed for 83 yards and a score. Robbie Stegall also rushed for a touchdown for RSB. The Ravens will play a non-league game against Nia Bay on Friday in Forks. Nia Bay is the 5th-ranked 1B team in the state. Did they play at Forks in this one? Are they going back-to-back trips to Forks? Was this last one at Forks?
Can't remember. No, it was in South Bend.
Okay, gotcha.
9th, that would be awful.
Right, that's what I was
weeks
thinking.
going to Forks. No, that'd be terrible.
Might as well stay in La Push.
9th-ranked
school.
PL Willapa Valley improved to 4-1 this season with a 54-22 win over Morton White Pass. 3 different players scored 2 touchdowns apiece for the Titans' balanced offensive attack. Cody Strozik, they also did it in order, which was perfect for this roundup. Nice. Cody Strozik rushed for the first 2 touchdowns. Blake Howard ran for the next 2. Then Nathan Fluke connected with Blaine King for the next two scores through the air to give PWV a 40-0 halftime lead. I know they did that with us in mind.
Absolutely.
That was really nice of them. Tyson Portman and Spud Swagger each scored on the ground for the Titans in the second half. Howard led the Titans rushers with 95 yards. Strozik and Swagger were not far behind with 79 and 68 respectively. PWV will play 4th-ranked Toledo on Friday.
I need more Spud Swagger. That name's awesome. Montesano's girls soccer team opened league play with a 4-0 home win over to Schleimo on Tuesday. Michaela Stanfield scored a hat trick and Hazel Jones added a goal for the Bulldogs. Monty improved to 2-0 in league play with a 4-0 win over Schmeatonville on Thursday.
Just a Schm at the beginning of it.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm struggling with my names here.
Okay.
Bethany Henderson scored 2 goals for the Bulldogs. Stanfield and Jalen Butterfield chipped in a goal apiece. And Stanfield, oh man, the Field's doing work there, added an assist.
Sticking with soccer, Elma won its league opener in convincing fashion, 13-0 over Hoquiam. Valerie Echeverria, not a typo.
That's not nice.
Valerie Echeverria led the Eagles with 5 goals and 3 assists.
Calm down.
Beta Valentine added 3 goals and 2 assists, but somehow was an afterthought. Miley Seaberg scored twice and assisted on 4 goals.
Do those 3 players just play with each other? Like, do they pass the ball to other kids?
Well, would you like to know
the
that
kids are playing defense?
Aaliyah Weld scored 2 goals and recorded 3 assists
Okay,
for
so-
the Eagles as well.
So the four players just
Yeah.
pass the ball to each other.
Elma added a second win this week with a 2-0 victory over Tenino on Thursday. Valentine scored a goal and assisted on the other. Eliza Sibbett scored the other goal for the Eagles.
We got more make-believe stories coming out of Acosta. They're just making stuff up to go along with Jesse Gilbert now.
Yeah.
Acosta's soccer team stomped El Waco 10-0 on
Not
Wednesday.
13?
No, just
Get
10
better.
Not enough.
on Wednesday. But Andrew, here's the kicker. Led by 8th grade phenom Bristol, is it Towley or Toll?
Toll.
Bristol Toll, who probably isn't real. She scored 6 goals for the 3rd time this season. That's not a typo.
Double hat trick?
For the 3rd
Yeah.
time this season, Kylie Denny added a hat trick and an assist for the Wildcats. Acosta improved to 6-3 the next day when it took down Hoquiam 1-0. Toll scored the lone goal, of course, in that match.
Did we
according
mention
to
she
this to this legend?
Did
that's
we
being
mention
written out
mention
there.
that allegedly she's an 8th grader
Yeah,
who has now 3 times this season scored 6 goals in a game?
that's nuts.
That's impressive.
Dude, I mean, do her and Jessica Gilbert just like hang out in a different part of school where they just make up stuff?
I think they were probably created in a lab.
I think 3D printing has gone too far.
Aberdeen soccer improved to 3-2 in league play with a 3-1 win at Shelton on Thursday. I know we got this name pronunciation for us last week. Is it Mineo?
Oh, it's Manio.
Oh, okay. Abby Manio and Scotland Lecomte each scored a goal for the Bobcats, who also scored on an own goal.
Nice. In volleyball, Hoquiam defeated Elma in straight sets on Tuesday in a league opener at Hoquiam Square Garden. Faith Prosh led the Grizzlies with 15 kills. Avery Templar was a perfect 29 for 29 from the service line with 8 aces. Hoquiam improved to 5-3 overall with a straight set win over North Beach on Thursday. Caitlin Broadhead had 24 assists and 15 digs to lead the Grizzlies.
Montesano Volleyball opened league play with a 3-1 home win over Tenino on Tuesday. Kylie Wisdom led the Bulldogs with 24 kills. That'll be an Athlete of the Week nominee. Carissa Otterstetter dished out 40 assists, and Liv Robinson led Monty with 16 digs. Monty won its 2nd straight league match with a 3-0, I called it nil, that's soccer, 3-0 victory over Eatonville on Thursday. Wisdom had another great night with 12 kills. Kayla Hatton had 8 assists and 11 aces, while Otterstetter doled out 20 assists for the Bulldogs.
Aberdeen's volleyball team beat Shelton in straight sets on Thursday to improve to 3-2 in league play this season. Annika Hollingsworth recorded 14 kills and Cameron Michaud dished out 33 assists for the Bobcats.
Raymond South Bend Volleyball picked up a straight set victory over North Beach on Tuesday. Junior setter Berkeley Morley dished out 22 assists with sophomore Ava Bogger recording a team-high 10 kills and 5 blocks.
Aberdeen's Baylor Ainsworth and Charlie Ansich combined to shoot a tournament record 8 under par, 64 at Alderbrook Golf Course in Union on Monday in the annual Sibley Scramble. I feel like I need to change my delivery on this. In the annual Sibley Scramble, Hunter Isley and Trevin Ramos combined to shoot a 77 for Aberdeen, and the Bobcats won the team title with a score of 181.
Well,
Elma placed 6th overall with a score of 155.
quite.
Grant Vesey, Kohan Morrison shot a 76, and Robbie Allen, Brody Palmer, 79 for the Eagles. Montesano placed 8th on the day with a final
Montesano.
score of 167. Aiden Sauer and Colton Grubb. What? Wait a second. Shot a 71 and Caden Grubb. What? And Gavin Root shot a 92 for the Bulldogs. Hey!
The Grubs are golfers now.
You're not allowed to be good at that too!
Yeah, they quit football to play golf.
Stop it!
Jumping back quickly to 2B volleyball, Acosta took down Ilwaco on Tuesday in straight sets. Alexia Bradley led the Wildcats with 16 kills and 4 solo blocks, which earned her an Athlete of the Week nominee as well. Hoquiam's Jane Roloff continued to make headlines this week in cross-country action.
Man, you did not give me much of a chance on that one.
Roloff broke Hoquiam's all-time 5K school record with a time of 18 minutes and 44.5 seconds at the Marysville Twilight Meet at Cedar Crest Golf Course on Saturday. That was a record. I did say that.
Yes.
She took first place in a field of 171 runners across 4 classes, 1B through 2A. Jane and the rest of the Grizzly runners will be back in action on Thursday, October 12th in the Tacoma Twilight Meet at the University of Puget Sound, which will be their last meet before the league championship on October 19th.
Athlete of the Week. And this just in. Up here in Matlock, Jane Roloff was just sighted running down the street.
Whoa, you saw her?
I saw her.
She never stops running.
Never stops.
I know that for a fact.
We had one comment during that while we were going over the Acosta, whatever you want to call it, legend. What would you call Robin Hood? Was Robin Hood a legend that some people think is true?
Hero.
Yeah, the latest Acosta hero. Somebody said that is kind of suspicious.
It's a little sussy. It's a little sussy.
A little sus.
Andrew, do we have a link to send to Ian? Because I think this would be a good time to bring him in.
I have to create the new meeting because we're limited to a certain number of.
Okay, gotcha. So we're gonna get Ian in here
Sorry,
really
Ian.
soon. But
it's my fault.
While we're
I'm the problem. It's me.
that's sung by that chick who's dating Travis Kelce.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, I really think she's gonna get some more popularity because she's dating a football star.
That's very possible. I mean, the NFL's about the most popular thing out there. So I would think she'll really gain some new fans.
Yeah, maybe get her shot because of that. What's her name again? Something like, just going with how
It's
the
Miley
show is.
Cyrus, right? The one who sings "Party in the USA."
No, I think it's Schmaler Schmidt.
Favorite song.
Hey.
Schmaler Schmidt.
Schmaler Schmidt.
Schmaler.
Schmaler.
Well, is this the link, Andrew?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
I will text this to the group. Daniel, why don't you
Filibuster?
open with some of your thoughts about Elma? The
You
Elma
mean
football
Ethan
game.
Camus?
Yeah, and before Ian can get in here and make fun of you for being the Ethan Camus fan of the week.
Ethan Camus. Is that a sponsored segment?
It can be if you want it to be.
Ethan Camus was open on every play. His route running was impeccable. His yards after catch and yards after contact was awesome. At one point, and you guys know how much this means to me when I make a comment like this, I called him the Tyler Lockett of the Eagles, and Tyler is my favorite player maybe of all time. And I made that comparison because his route running is just awesome. And yet he also has the ability, even though he's, 5'10", maybe? Not the tallest player, to jump up, high point a ball on the sideline over 2 defenders. And
All right,
blocking
Ian's here.
dudes on touchdown runs. Oh, sorry, Ian. We actually don't need you anymore because I'm just going to talk about Ethan Camus for the whole time.
Hang on.
Nope. I thought you said we had him.
I see infinite
Oh.
needs.
Doesn't have there we go.
There
Ian,
he
can
is.
you hear us? Ian?
Hey,
Hey! Daniel just spent
technology.
Daniel spent 3 minutes oozing about Ethan Camus.
Was he still going on about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's been days. That's the only thing he's texted us about.
Yeah, I actually work with his aunt, so if you want me to set up a meeting, I probably could.
Daniel wants his autograph.
I'm not sure if I could actually go up and ask EC23 for his autograph. I'd probably start fanboying a little too much.
Well, you kept it together remarkably well. I was a little impressed by that. I mean,
All right, Ian, you and I both watched this game. To say a tale of two halves seems like an understatement for this. I personally thought that Hoquiam looked better than Elma in the first half, and it was a little surprising that they were tied 7-7 at halftime. How in the world could it change so quickly and so dramatically?
well, I mean, I don't want to take too much of a critical view of high school kids, but I mean, Hoquiam showed themselves, I thought, to be pretty one-dimensional. I mean, they run the ball really well, and when the running game is working, then they can mix in some pass plays, get Xander Jump, get Joey Bozich in there. When the running game is not there, it is a completely different story. The Elma DBs had the receivers blanketed. No one was able to get open. It's kind of what we've seen from Hoquiam the last few years. I think we talked about it, Daniel, that during that funky short COVID season that we had, you had Dane McMillan and Caden Kempf running around in the backfield, scrambling, trying to get someone, but no receivers could get open. And it was kind of the same thing that we saw here. The Elma DBs just had them completely blanketed, either because they were really good or the Grizzly receivers just could not find any space to get away from them.
That is something that, yeah, with all my gushing of Ethan Camus, I forgot to mention he was great on defense, too. No, I'm just kidding. He was, but you're right. Their passing defense was good on both levels because most of the time Xander Jump was running for his life, and you look downfield, and there's nobody to throw to throughout the entire play. Because Xander would create some extra time, and then every now and then he'd take a breath and look downfield, and you would almost see his shoulders slump, like, visibly, like, nope, still nobody's open, and he would start running around again. So the defense in the secondary by Elma was also excellent.
Yeah, I got to say that I saw Elma play Castle Rock 2 weeks ago and saw them play on Friday. The difference in the style of play really was something, and I think either Coach Raines or Coach Doyle said it in the Daily World that we seemed to discover hitting finally and physical play. And they were, you saw it, I mean, they were laying hats out there. It was vicious defense. Carter, finally back from injury, was just absolutely blowing people up. It was like he was trying to make it up for lost time. The fact that he hadn't played for 4 weeks, he was going out there and just hitting anyone who came into his area, and it looked like a completely different football team.
To say the least, Justin, Traden Carter blew up somebody on almost every play, including one play he blew up his own guy. Like, he was an absolute missile out there. Kickoff returns, on offense blocking. He had a run where he finished it by just blowing up some poor unsuspecting tackler. Like, he was awesome defensively for the Grizzlies. Wow, I said the wrong team.
Well, you said awesome. You said awesome, and then so immediately you naturally went to Bulldogs.
Jeez, that was just horrible. Elma people are going to be so upset with me. Traden Carter was legitimately a wrecking ball out there on defense for the Eagles. Got the right name that time.
Good job.
And he was fun to watch and almost scary to watch, too. Because some of the kids that he destroyed were decleated. One time there could have been a penalty.
Yeah, there was one play there on where it was almost like he rediscovered the old wedge buster play that isn't allowed anymore. The guy that goes down there and just basically blows up the wedge on a kickoff return. He just went down and said, "There's a guy in front of me wearing a crimson jersey. I'm just going to go hit him. He's 20 yards away from where the ball is, but I'm going to run through him anyway."
Yeah. The kid went flying like 10 yards back.
Yeah.
And then I looked up and saw another kid who made some nice plays. One of the younger players for Elma was Colby Rademacher. Just laid waste to the ball carrier on that one. It seemed like the game turned on that kickoff return coming out of halftime, though, with who was it? It was Blaze Salazar. It was one of those normal like line drive squib kicks that so many times you either see somebody get out of the way of, or it tips off their hands and it ends up being a scramble for the ball. Instead, Blaze and Upman catches it in the air and it's just gone. 77 yards or was it 77 yards or 60 yards? Something like that.
I think it was
60
60.
yards.
60 yards for the kickoff return for a touchdown. And it just seemed like it blew Hoquiam's doors off and they couldn't figure anything out after that.
Yeah, and then they went 3 and out on the next drive. Elma got another completion to Ethan Camus to get down close, and then they used the running game, which they finally got going. So yeah, it was a good performance by Elma. Looking, I haven't seen what Tenino and wait, am I allowed to call it Tenino and Eatonville on this, or do I have to come up with some?
No, you can call them by their names. I don't actually think Schmeatonville was that creative anyway.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll do better.
I don't know. I haven't seen what they did this week. If they were winners. Actually, I think they played on Saturday. I think. So I'm not sure how that game went, but if Elma plays the way they did in the second half, the rest of the way out, I would see a situation where they and Montesano are both undefeated in league play going into the final game of the season. So I could see Elma very easily being the number 2 seed, or if they pull off an upset of Montesano, the number 1 seed coming out of the Evergreen League, which I would not have thought at the beginning of the season, but they put it together and they looked like a legit football team. Carter Studer, you don't get a hand in that guy's face, he's going to tear you apart. He delivered a couple of passes that Daniel and I were just oohing and awing. I mean, if it wasn't for Ethan Camus, I think he would have been the Carter Studer fan club.
Probably.
You mentioned, Ian. Oh, did you have something?
No, go for it.
You mentioned, Ian, that you could see Elma being potentially undefeated going into the Monty game in league play. I think one of the things that's so interesting about the league this year is, like, Monty, as a third-ranked team would be the obvious front runner, but there's so much we don't know about how these other teams are going to develop as the year goes on. Because obviously, Elma early on with the bad loss to Castle Rock and needing overtime to beat Centralia, which is a winless team, I think, you might have looked at what they did over the first few weeks and thought this team isn't very good. But coming out and making a statement like this against Hoquiam is a big deal, because if you run through the teams in the league, you have Eatonville, who's returning they're replacing a whole bunch of starters. Like, they have a whole bunch of guys who haven't had a ton of experience, and most of the players who did most of their damage last year are gone. So it's reasonable to believe that they will get better as the season goes on. Tenino is winless, but Tenino has a whole new coaching staff when they lost their coach in the middle of the summer after the whole summer program was over. So their new staff had literally about 3 weeks to put in whatever they're going to do. It's reasonable to think they will get better as the season goes on. So you throw Hoquiam and Elma into the mix there, and it's really like, it feels super wide open what could happen in the Evergreen 1A League. And I think if you're Elma, you got to feel pretty optimistic going forward after this performance against Hoquiam.
Yeah, I think you just saw the confidence gained as the game went on. I mean, I think the way that Carter was hitting, the way that they were able to run the ball, the way that Carter Studer was able to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball without getting knocked to the turf like he did against Castle Rock. I think that this is still in many ways a very young team. They've got some key seniors and upperclassmen in leadership positions, but on the line, it is very, very young. And I think that success breeds confidence, and confidence in this league, I think, is something that is going to go a long way. And the team that grows up the fastest, whether it be a young Eatonville team, a young Tenino team, or a young Elma team, is going to have a chance to get into that crossover playoff. And all roads lead through Montesano in this league, and that's not being a Monty fanboy here. That's just looking at the way that the record stands out and the way the performance stands out. They're the number 3 team in the state. They're the number 1 team in this league until someone knocks them off. I don't see that happening until maybe they get into that final game of the season against Elma. They're playing in Elma. It's a rivalry game. Funky things happen in rivalry games. We've seen it.
Absolutely, and it's especially in high school football where momentum can get things really weird. A fumble here or there can completely turn a game. We got a couple of comments from Bitcoin Hoodie Guy. One very pro Elma and one very pro Monty. He says Isaac McGaffey will be the best athlete in Elma history, and he also says that Monty will kill Elma. There's a dispute on the best athlete in Elma history because as much as Elma's been down of late, I think there's some Boslers that might be upset about a comment like that.
Well, there's a bit of hyperbole involved there, but I think the point, I know
he's a really good athlete.
After the Jambo, Daniel, I remember telling you that there was a guy, like he didn't really have a chance to make a lot of plays. I did watch Isaac McGaffey haul in an incredible pass on the sideline that he barely couldn't get his feet in bounds, but almost did. And I think his athleticism overall just really stands out. So for me, you guys mentioned Carter Studer, you mentioned Traden Carter. There's a couple of backs in there too, Austin Reeves and Isaac Phillips as well. So there's a lot of players for Elma that they're names that we kind of hear a lot. I was curious what your thoughts were on Isaac McGaffey and if he was able to have an impact on the game.
He didn't have an impact on the game at all. They didn't need him. I mean, he didn't. And that's not a dig on the kid. They did not play him at offense the way that I thought they would. When Coach Doyle sent me the starting lineup, he had the receivers, Jackson Schneider, Meadows, and Camus in there, and I thought, oh shoot, something's happened to McGaffey. There's no way you're going to leave a guy who went off for 500 and 240 on the sideline. But they used him at receiver handful of times. They hit him for one touchdown that got called back by a penalty. But aside from that, I think he caught one pass. He threw one pass on a fake play. He was more of an impact defensively than he was offensively. So, and I completely agree with you on that. He is a next level athlete. What we saw him do in that Castle Rock game, in that Columbia White Salmon game, really take over and lead the team. We saw what he's capable of, and I think that Coach Doyle is rightfully very confident, very excited moving forward. But for right now, he is not a key contributor in this offense when they're set up the way they are right now. And I think that possibly if he does become more of a contributor, does play more, does start as the season moves on, that's just going to make them even better because he is. I don't know that he's up there with Doherty or the Boslers, Tony Tabaya, all those guys. But there are a lot of great athletes that have come out of Elma. He is definitely going to be a good one. And the fact that he's only a sophomore, I think you got to be really excited when you look at Elma for the years to come because they've got a good young class, and the rec, or not the rec leagues, the Pee Wee football that's coming up, and the junior high football is pretty good too.
And then I guess as kind of a last thing, unless when we get to the point where we're done, you have any parting shots, anything else you want to say, that's great. But I'm curious about this Elma passing game because one thing that I feel like we can consistently know about Elma is that if they can get into the kind of game that they want to, they're going to put up points. Like whether they win games or lose games, they have a quarterback who can dish it out, that can throw the ball to any point on the field. And they have several different guys. Like Ethan Camus, he was obviously the star of this game, but he hasn't been the star of every game. Like Jacob Meadows had a massive game early in the year where I think he had over 180 receiving yards. We've seen McGaffey come out with over 200 receiving yards in one game. And they have a couple backs as well who can do some damage. So what do you think, or do you, I guess the better way to phrase it is, do you feel like the versatility in the passing game is going to be what helps drive this team? Or do you think there's another key for what helps Elma going forward to be the best version of themselves?
I think that they are very heavy on skill position players. I think they've got a lot of good receivers. I don't think you can cover everyone. I think that you could see Meadows take over a game the way he did against Centralia. You could see McGaffey take over a game the way he did, granted against the JVs of Castle Rock, but you saw him take over there. And then you saw Camus take over in this game against Hoquiam. I think that they've got some very good skill position players. You can't cover everybody. That, I think, is what's going to be key moving forward for this team is, pick your poison. You can't cover everybody. And if that one player that gets the hot hands is able to take over, then I think that they can ride them like they did against Hoquiam, or it could be a little bit more of a spread of everyone gets a little piece of the pie. And I think that's actually when Elma's going to be at its best, is when they do start spreading the ball around. When you get a Meadows and a Camus and a McGaffey or a Schneider going out there and performing, that's when I think that they're going to be at their best. They played their best game of the season so far, their best half of the season so far against Hoquiam. I still think their best game is yet to come.
Do you have anything else about this game that stood out to you that we haven't talked about that you feel like should be mentioned?
I think that no. I will say this: the offensive line did a great job. And this is something, again, I alluded to it earlier, that I saw them play against Castle Rock, and they were just getting pushed around. Studer and McGaffey were both running for their lives, weren't able to set up, and the offense suffered as a result of it. The offensive line this time, against the likes of a Trevor Turpin, Dominic Stanstiper, good defensive players, they did a fantastic job. So I think as much as Daniel's fanboying over Ethan Camus, and much as I think Carter Studer really showed just how good a quarterback he is, I think that the offensive line deserves a lot of credit. That's a young offensive line. They're thrown into the mix, learning under fire, whatever saying you want to use for having to learn while everyone is watching. But they did a great job on Friday night, and I think that they deserve a lot of credit as well. I think that the stat sheet lights up when you see Studer and Camus's numbers, but the stats, such as they exist for an offensive line's performance, would speak really highly of what those 5 offensive linemen did.
And now I know, Ian, you were a little preoccupied while Montesano was playing Shelton because you were broadcasting a different game, but were you? I don't think any of us were surprised. Like, we all picked Montesano in that game. Did you have any level of surprise over seeing a final score of 55-0?
No, no, absolutely not. I think is that their first shutout of the season?
It is their first shutout of the season. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would have surprised me is if they'd allowed more than one touchdown, because they haven't allowed more than one score in every game this season. So that's their first shutout. No, I think that this is another team that's got some seniors at key leadership positions, but you're breaking in a sophomore quarterback. You've got running backs outside of Gabe Bodwell, a tailback who is you got a bunch of young guys, first-time varsity starters that are in there playing that, and Tarek Gunter and Eaton, and I'm forgetting somebody else here,
Thomas Flink is the other one, yeah.
Yeah. No, it didn't surprise me at all. I thought that having looked at what Shelton's done so far this season and what Montesano's done, finally playing at home, they're on the turf, they were due an explosive game, and it didn't surprise me at all that they got it.
All right. Well, Ian, before we let you go, Daniel, did you have anything else you want to note about the Hoquiam Elma game?
Just wanted to make sure, in case you guys missed it, I had to step out for a second, but I thought Tanner Thompson had a huge game for Elma on the defensive line. So if that wasn't mentioned, I wanted to bring that up. On the plays that he wasn't making, it seemed like he was in the backfield and made a huge impact stopping the run a lot too. So I just wanted to make sure that he was mentioned in case you guys missed it while I had to step out, to work things.
Yeah, Tanner played great. I think that the Elma Eagles have yet to play, as I told Justin this, Daniel, that I think Elma's yet to play their perfect game or their best game. But you look at what the schedule holds for them coming up. They play Eatonville the next to last game of the season, and then they play Montesano at home in the East County Civil War. So those last 2 weeks of the season will be what determine just where you see the Elma Eagles when it comes to the crossover. But they put themselves, courtesy of that win against Hoquiam, they put themselves in a great position to be a postseason team this year.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, then, on that note, we will say goodbye to Ian Cope. He is a sports commentator, lead play-by-play commentator for 1490 KWOK. He's
the voice of Grace Harbor Sports.
Bringing you football action every single week, hopefully all the way through the state title game this year. And Ian... the voice of Grace Harbor Sports, as Daniel has.
I thought that was you now, Justin. I thought you usurped that title.
I tried to take it away because you didn't want it, and then you seemed like when I tried to take it away, you seemed like you wanted it. You seemed like you wanted it. So I'm gonna let you keep it. We're gonna do the thing though, where you can continue to pretend you don't want us to call you that, and we'll just keep calling you that.
Deal.
Okay. All right, Ian, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll have you back on in a couple weeks to talk about one of these other great games you're broadcasting.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. You have a great day.
Thanks, Ian.
All right, so we're going to move into the Monty win over Shelton, and it's been kind of like same stuff, different week for a lot of the stuff with Monty. I think overall the competition they've faced for the most part outside of Aberdeen hasn't been very good, and they've come out with convincing wins. And as Ian mentioned, this is their first shutout, so that's kind of a big deal. That means that even when they put their JV defense in, Shelton wasn't able to go score on him. And in fact, Monty's JV offense scored a touchdown against Shelton. Unlike Ian, I would say I'm not surprised by a blowout victory. I thought this was Monty should be a significant favorite. I was a little surprised at how fast it happened, because opening kickoff return for a touchdown, Shelton 3 and out. And then within, I think, 2 offensive plays, there's a bomb of a touchdown from Tyson Perry to Mason Rasmussen. And then Felix Romero Monty's kicker does the thing he's so good at, which is do a squib boot kick where you kick it directly at one of the up men. And the poor guy didn't have a chance. Felix shot a line drive right at this guy. It bounced off of him up in the air. I think Thomas Flink from Montesano was the one who recovered it, if I remember right. And then first play, Tarek Gunter goes 46 yards for a score. So we're like literally 4 minutes into the game.
What position was Tarek playing?
On that play?
Yeah.
Well, that was a kickoff.
Oh, that was a kickoff. Gotcha.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No.
He's a halfback.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Is he starting now? Has there been some injuries?
He started at halfback. So they don't really have like a halfback who's the guy.
Okay.
They've been rotating between different guys, and I think trying to just see who does well and ride the hot hand. You got Tarek Gunter, and then Tucker Eaton, who I again almost just called Malachi Eaton.
Right.
And then Thomas Flink. And they've all been getting shots, and they've all been getting carries here and there. I think, Tucker's made some really good plays. He caught a deep touchdown pass in the Castle Rock game. But as far as like consistent running, I think Tarek's been probably the one who's performed the best. Although Gabe Bodwell totally is the running game.
Right.
For Montesano so far, especially now that Jackson Wilson's been hurt. Gabe has been just dominating the run game. So Tarek has that big touchdown, and like all of a sudden it's 21-0.
Yeah.
And like all the stress that is at the beginning of the game, like it doesn't go away because you never feel like you're safe until you get to like mercy rule.
Right.
But it's like, all right, I can kind of
well I do
off a little bit.
I usually feel safe before mercy rule.
Yeah.
But it seems like none of the coaches in the area does.
Yeah.
Because no matter the time or the score, as long as it's not mercy rule, the starters never come out.
And I think I would add the slight caveat that depends offense to defense too, because like for Monty, there's been times where they might continue to put their starting defense out,
yeah,
or they'll continue to put their starting offense out, but they'll do like 80% subs on defense.
Right.
They did that a lot against Castle Rock. They really started mixing in defensive subs as the game went on.
I should have also listed Monty as the outlier because
good point.
When they blow people out, they generally sub in.
Oh, there was subs mixing in the second quarter in this game.
Exactly, and that's something that you don't see very much with the other programs, and I'm constantly calling for it. Like, even if I understand it more if you're waiting to get to the mercy rule, but also when it's 34-7 in the fourth quarter, halfway through the fourth quarter, you could probably, take out most of your stars to make sure that they don't turn an ankle and lose the rest of the season.
Well, and we saw that with Hoquiam, right? Because didn't they have was it Matt Brown? Who was the guy that got hurt late in a game?
That was Matt Brown and Dane McMillan. Both got nicked up at the end of a blowout win over Aberdeen a while ago. And it was like, dude, why? Why are they in the game?
More than even protecting people, because if it's a good game, then they're going to have to play the whole game anyway.
Right.
But more than that is if you've got juniors and sophomores that are going to be seniors and juniors next year, and the more that they get experience, the better they'll be.
Exactly.
That is just a fact.
And the more experience they get, the better they'll be if you lose your players in a close game. Because you're right. If the good players if it's a close game, they're going to be playing. My response to that would be, well, yeah, you need them to play in a close game.
No,
Whereas
absolutely.
if you get hurt in a blowout, you start to think, well, that was dumb.
Yeah.
We already won that game. Anyway, nobody except for Monty, nobody really listens to me on that. And so, maybe that's why they're constantly good.
Well, I did appreciate when we had Coach Bridge on from Aberdeen last week. He talked about how, teams who make the playoffs consistently, it's not even just about, it's better for your program because
That's a good point.
you get 2 extra weeks of practice. You
Yep.
win a district crossover. You win a playoff game. You get weeks of extra practice. So the rich get richer because the program, and like he said, I could have 2 weeks of practice, but nobody's going to show up.
Exactly.
Because all these kids are moving on to wrestling or basketball.
Yep.
But if you're still playing football, you get more practice time. You get to get better at your craft, and that helps you moving forward. And on the same note, when you have games that you get up big, you have opportunities to, mix in a lot of the guys who are your JV players.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to keep tooting that horn till the end of time because I don't
I'm with
think
you.
anybody's really going to listen to that.
I'm totally with you. And I think I've pretty much said this every week. I'm kind of keeping mental track of when a lot of subs start mixing in.
Yep.
And it's a little different every week, but often for Monty, it's been before halftime.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of defensive guys sub
Yeah.
it. So while Ian was saying he was not surprised at 55-0, I was a little surprised just about that level of blowout. Because that meant not only did you get to the mercy rule, but once you got to the mercy rule and you had subs in, you were still kind of piling it on.
Yeah, well, and that means your JV's scoring.
Your JV scored, and your JV stopped the Shelton offense. I
Yeah.
think they had
That's-
2 full JV drives on defense.
Yeah,
that was after having a few drives already of a lot of mixed subs in.
Yeah, that's not good.
I was
That's
really
crazy.
I was actually really excited at an opportunity to see the JV offense play and see how fast Felix Romero looked.
Yeah.
Because holy cow, he had about a 50-yard run or a 45-yard run to set up his own 14-yard touchdown.
And I mean, in that situation, you're probably going to leave Tyson Perry in, even though he's the starting quarterback. You're probably going to leave him in for a long time because he's a sophomore and he just started being a starting quarterback.
Right.
So that would make sense to get him some more work, on different things, to leave him in longer.
I think too for Tyson, as a sophomore starting quarterback, who again it's also he was not a sophomore starting quarterback who planned to be the quarterback from the beginning of the year.
Right.
Went through the offseason program as a starter and was prepared for it.
Right.
He's a sophomore quarterback who's kind of thrust into this role because the senior quarterback got hurt. So, obviously there's going to be some growing pains, but for the beginning of that game, to start with him throwing a 42-yard touchdown bomb to Rasmussen, that was a big deal. I
And
think
so that was a down the field throw.
that was a down-the-field throw, and I would add that, Mason had a step, and it was a good throw, and then Shelton's cornerback fell down. So, if anybody tries to tell you, oh, that happened because the corner fell down, not accurate.
Gotcha.
He had already released the ball. It was already on point. Mason was already running underneath it. But there's a really good picture in the Daily World where Mason's catching the ball, and the corner is, upside down. If you first of all, if you don't have a subscription to the Daily World, go get one and check out the online version of that article because I think it was by Sean Donnelly
Okay.
who took the photo, but it's a really good picture. I always appreciate pictures like that.
That's a terrible feeling as a corner.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm getting beat. Oh no.
Yeah. So I think for Monty, that was a big deal. Being able to see Tyson get off to a good start and then have a good quality game. But also, it's kind of a low stress game. When you have a 21-0 lead,
Right.
4 minutes in, and you continue to be able to do it. I think Montesano defensively was, although they did allow 160 yards or something in the game.
Jeez.
They were
Gross.
the second quarter, there was some first downs that happened and everything, and I don't want to make that seem like, oh, it's horrible, you let up some first downs. They did allow some yards, and even the JV defense at the end did allow some yards too. But when there was a point where Shelton started by trying to pack it in and run the ball up the middle, and they were doing the Tenino thing from last year where it's let's get 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, and it kind of worked. But then Monty's defensive staff made an adjustment that made it no longer work. And then that got stuffed. So late in the second quarter, you see Shelton shift to like a wide open spread. Like, all right, we went from max protect to we're going to put everybody outside and we're going to have our quarterback try to make throws against one defender. And it kind of worked for a little bit. And then it no longer did. Because when Monty came out in the third quarter, it was like sack, incompletion, punt. Sack, incompletion, punt. It was terrible for Shelton offensively. Gabe Pahala, I believe, had a couple sacks again in this game. Peyton Domashevitz, no relation, had a sack in this game.
What's the J stand for?
There was also a play where Shelton had gotten really down. And this was like late in the second quarter. Shelton got really far into Monty territory. I think they might have even been inside the 5. And they did that by spreading out and throwing the ball. And they then, after spreading out and throwing the ball to get all the way inside the 5, they decided to try 2 runs in a row. They got knocked back about 10 yards.
Smart.
And then they ran another play where they lined up in like this weird offset max protect thing where like they had 2 backs in the backfield and they tried to use them as extra blockers, and then they were going to do like a halfback pass. So the quarterback gives the ball to the halfback, and then you see like Peyton comes up on one side and occupies a block. And then all of a sudden, Camden Taylor, who's 6'3", 250 pounds.
With murder eyes,
finds himself like unexpectedly right on top of this runner. Because so this guy's trying to pass the ball, and he's like, I can't pass the ball. I'm going to tuck it and try to get into a better spot. And for some weird reason, he decided to run right at Cam.
That's not what I would do.
So Cam, in probably the awkwardest looking tackle I've ever seen Cam make, just like hugs this guy and falls over. It actually looked, I'll have to see if I can find the clip and show you on film. It was really funny. So for Monty, I think the defensive dominance was really impressive. And also seeing them be able to, we know that the Monty coaching staff can do these things, but to see them make an adjustment from the offense is doing this, we adjust, we stop that. The offense does this. It kind of works a little bit. We stop it. We make an adjustment and we stop it. But my boy Gabe Bodwell.
Big game, Gabe.
Who we have continued to snub on Athlete of the Week. Had his third consecutive 3-touchdown game.
Yep.
He had over 130 yards rushing on just 13 carries.
Yes. While we have snubbed him.
Yeah.
We did name an episode about him. After him.
Yeah, there's also...
That was the only thing I could think of to do to make it up to him.
But that's the thing, is I feel like you're taking more of the snub on than what we've done in previous times. Because we literally gave the award to lesser deserving people over Trace Ridgeway multiple times. While we have snubbed Gabe, there is a good argument for everybody who has won the award over Gabe every time. Like 5 touchdowns... or Farrell Johnson running for 200 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like,
number one, I will not admit to snubbing Trace for a less deserving candidate. I will not concede to that. Number two, a couple of the votes to snub Gabe Bodwell were a split decision. I would just like to point that out.
well, yeah, because you were the one voting for him when Andrew and I realized that somebody scoring 6 touchdowns is probably a better week.
Against... Never mind. We're not going to rehash that argument because I listened back to it and I lost. Anyway, the point is with Monty, we're talking about a very convincing win over Shelton. They're going into a game against Eatonville.
A 2A school in Shelton.
2A school, yeah. And who's probably going to be moving up to 3A next year.
It's so
and they've been kind of back and forth between the classifications.
Poor Shelton. They're so bad. Why are they so bad?
You know what?
I don't understand. Why are they so bad?
I was having a conversation with somebody in the stands after the game was over. Like, what's up with Shelton? Why did they stink at everything? And I'm like,
do they
stink
at everything or just football?
No, they're bad at a lot of sports.
A lot of them, yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I mean, I've been to Shelton a couple times. Like
It's bigger than Aberdeen.
Yeah.
It's bigger than Aberdeen. They have a pretty cool facility. They have a giant logger that intimidates you as you walk in.
Yeah.
they host these powerlifting meets. They have this awesome like giant podium tablet thing that you can use. You can do like a touch screen that shows you their whole program history, what their records are. Like you can look at everything. It's really cool.
Really cool.
And they also have like one of the best, if not the best, powerlifting programs in the state.
So why are they bad at sports?
Why are they bad at football specifically?
It's so weird.
It's really weird.
Very odd. Anyway, you have a goals update.
I do have a goals update. I got from Coach Daniel. I got a bunch of stuff here. So the boys U10 team came away with a 9-0 win versus Emerald City FC. Tiago had 5 goals in that game. Axel had 2. Tyler and Liam each had 1. The man of the match, obviously, Tiago.
I just want to say that he had 5 goals in that game, and I just ran through our list of nominations for Athlete of the Week, and he's not in there.
He's only not in there because I had already typed out the list of nominees before I got this message. He's a part of it.
It is. Our nominees are packed, by the way.
It's going to be, I think we have 12.
I don't know what we're going to do. I have an idea of what I'm thinking of. I have an idea of what I think we should do, but it's kind of a cop-out.
I don't like it. You can already change your mind.
Okay.
Because it's bad.
All right.
Don't do it.
Okay.
The boys U10 team led by Tiago has 5 goals. Tiago will be an Athlete of the Week nominee for his 5 goals in that game. That's Tiago Ruiz. The boys U11 team with a 4-2 win over Titans FC. Levi had a solo goal and blocked a free kick. Or hold on. Levi solo goal, blocked free kick to Levi, goal Alexander, assisted Levi, goal Levi, hat trick. Levi had a hat trick.
Okay.
Levi had a hat trick in that game, and Johan assisted on Alexander's goal. I read that very poorly, so that's bad. That's a bad job.
That's all right.
Levi was the man of the match with a hat trick, and in the B11 action, they had an 8-2 win versus Washington Rush. And I'm going to go down to the player of the match on this one. Graham is the player of the match, and an honorable mention to the entire team. This group is the next BO9 type of team. So this is the next team that they kind of feel like can do what that boys U15 team is doing at the premier level. They have some exciting prospects in each age group, and currently 3 younger boys teams are extremely excited to watch and see how they develop. Coach Manuel and Coach Anna are doing an incredible job with this team. So I'll move on to the girls 10 with a 5-1 win versus Valor. First win of the season for this. You got 2 goals from Zippy and Hannah, and Addie with 1 goal. Michaela and Berlin with an assist each. Player of the match is Hannah with 2 goals. And, also Hannah, by the way, this will be another Athlete of the Week nominee. Not only 2 goals in the win for the goals, but also made the WPL surf team for Girls U10. So we talked about some of those boys U15 players who made this like elite level surf team, which is like you go play for this team and it helps you do bigger soccer things. And now we have a player from the younger level on the other side, and Hannah to be able to do that for the goals. And moving on to boys 09, they suffered a 2-0 loss to Trayson, and the man of the match is Zeke, who played extremely well on defense and shifted around the field, but once they dropped to 10 players, things kind of went poorly for them. They were short on people that day. For boys 05, they had a 3-2 win versus Central Washington Sounders. I like this recap. I like it when any recap starts with tensions were high. I'm going to go ahead and say that's a winner. Tensions were high as they went down 1-0 midway through the first half. The CW Sounders had a free kick 40 yards out. They floated a nice ball to the 15-yard line where a Sounders player flicked it near the post of a beautiful header. Near the end of the first half, a defensive error saw the ball getting through the goal's backfield, and with the goal's keeper playing too high of a line, a Sounders player broke through on a 1v1 and slid the ball under to keep to an open net. Slid it under the keep to an open net. Why am I so bad at reading today? Is this a normal thing?
I don't think so. That's exceptionally
It's
bad.
a normal thing
Halftime, the goals
when you're
BO5.
when you're reading things that other people write.
Okay.
Because that's harder to do than reading stuff that you write yourself.
Right, because when you write it yourself, you read the things you forgot to put in.
So at halftime, the goals are down 2-0. Coach Eddie broke out the computer and played Al Pacino's locker room speech from Any Given Sunday,
Nice.
which I'm hoping has no curses in it because
Yeah.
that movie was not appropriate for children.
Yeah.
The boys retook the field for the second half, and it wasn't long before Yvonne drilled a long-distance shot that deflected off a Sounders' hand into the box. That's a penalty. Captain Gio Torres stepped up, and the keeper made the initial save, but Gio followed the ball and put it away.
Nice.
The Gulls then 10 minutes later had a long free kick. The ball was played into the mixer and got knocked around a bit until Captain Hugo Garcia, which I think is his role on the team and not like a military rank.
I was going to say Captain Hugo.
Captain Hugo Garcia slotted it in far post to tie the game at 2-2. Moments later, the Gulls had a through ball played, and Estevan Isidro ran around a player and split between two more, playing the ball around the keeper for a 3-2 lead. But it was called back for offside. Late, with just minutes left in the game, the Gulls had a corner kick and got brought down and knocked around a bit until Gio Torres fired a rocket straight up the middle of the goal, scoring his second of the game and leaving no doubt for the win. The Gulls had to tighten up with 4 minutes remaining, where Tay Lassard took over and turned into a beast, helping them ensure the win.
Love it.
Me too. Let's see, boys U11 team plays today, and I don't know if we have an update on that. Coach Daniel was hoping that he'd be able to jump into the live and give us some more updates on what they have. But I will say that we have 2 Athlete of the Week nominees from the Gulls this week. One was Tiago Ruiz with his 5 goals and a convincing 9-0.
You're struggling, man.
I'm really struggling.
I love Dill, by the way.
9-0 win for boys U10. And also Hannah Lassard, who scored 2 goals and made the Surf Academy team for the girls U10 age group.
That's awesome. Coach Daniel is in the live, just hopped in, and he says B11 update. So now he's furiously typing. Goals.
He's typing in a British accent, by the way. So you have to read it in a British accent.
I have to read it in British accent?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're putting me on the spot.
Crikey! Wait,
No.
that's Australian.
The Gulls BU11 versus Titans 3-0.
You're just doing fancy.
Levi, so isn't British fancy?
Yeah, but fancy isn't always British.
Justin just thinks British is fancy.
I'm struggling right now.
I believe in you.
The rain in Spain lives mainly in the plains. No. Levi solo goal. The Lila assist to Jerry for a goal. Connor assist to Allen for goal. Player of the match was John. Great goalkeeping. First clean sheet of the season. Honorable mention to Ash for huge defensive plays and Johan for great control and help on the middle. Oh, he's also got a B09 premiere update, and he's typing furiously some more. Man, he's lightning fingers right now for Coach Daniel as he is providing these updates in real time for us, Andrew. Justin had taken this opportunity to exit. I had to exit earlier. I apologize for that with work stuff, which,
Somebody didn't
Definitely.
have their power.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody down in Lewis County didn't have their power, so I have to tell them about it. Let's see. Is that update in there yet? No, not quite. Andrew, I'm hoping we should come up with a plan. Oh, dang it. Justin's back. We can't create a coup on the Athlete of the Week. Okay, more
What do you mean?
updates.
I never left. We have another.
I'm voting for Marcus
Goals BO9 premiere versus Atletico, who were undefeated. 4-1 loss, and that started out as a closely contested match. and then must have slipped away from them a little bit towards the end. Justin, you missed it. I was not able to read it in a British accent. I panicked, and
I believe you did your best.
No, I didn't. It was terrible. I Julio'd it, and I was under pressure.
Oh!
Oh no! I don't like it. I don't like it.
I was under pressure, and I caved.
Yeah, I'm getting emotional, not going to lie.
That was me last night. Playing with only 12 players, with most of their team out due to injury, it was 0-0. Mauricio then made 15 saves in the first half. Holy cow, Mauricio. That's a lot of saves.
That's a busy.
That's what
keeper.
Mauricio do.
Yeah. But I think this is a different Mauricio.
Oh, really?
Well, what goals BO9? I don't know what is that the normal Mauricio?
I think BO9 is their U15 team.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Fouls led to so this is the team that's playing against a really good competition
with the Garcias.
Okay, so they're playing an undefeated team in that league.
Oh yeah, they're playing the team that was at the top of the table. Yeah, they're playing the team at the top of the table. So
Okay,
and they
gotcha.
remember from last week
Right.
this goals team had gone into this league thinking like, hey, let's just not be bad, and then they've ended up in second place
Right.
with three straight wins.
Right, okay. So this makes so much more sense now. So they're playing Atletico, who's undefeated, and they had a 4-1 loss, but it started out a closely played match. Playing with only 12 players, with most of their team out due to injury, it was 0-0. Mauricio made 15 saves in the first half because, as you mentioned, that's what Mauricio do.
Yeah, he do.
And then fouls led to a free kick where they scored to go up 1-0. Then the boys collapsed and conceded to first to go up to 2-0 up quickly. Yes, it is the same Mauricio. Thank you for making sure I knew that. PK made it 3-0, and then 4-0. They curled into the top corner for a stunning goal. Then the boys refocused, and JB played a ball through to
JB
Zeke.
Fabian.
Yes, played a ball through to Zeke. Nice little through ball there on the left wing, who put the ball underneath the keeper to make it 4-1. Player of the match, Mauricio, for doing Mauricio things with not letting people score unless he's put in terrible situations. And then honorable mention, I added some of the, I do my editorializing as I go sometimes.
Yeah.
Honorable mention to Zeke with his first goal for that league.
Dude, they
Or
won
for that
this
team.
game.
What?
They won this game?
No, they lost 4-1.
Oh.
Were you not paying attention?
No.
Oh, gosh, dang it, Justin.
Sorry.
That's literally what happens when you guys talk about
That was a bad job by me. Okay, so I was going to say, because this team that they played against, by the way,
Real good.
added context, beat them 5-2 in the opening game of the season.
Gotcha.
So they have already lost to this team. So, like, it's not surprising that they lost to this team. This team's really good.
Yeah.
But every other team that the Gulls have played in this league, they've come away with a win.
Absolutely. Okay, so
I feel like I really
They held
messed
them
up
to
there.
less. They held
wasn't
them to
great.
less scores.
yes, they did hold them to less scores. They also put less in, but they
In golf, the lower score wins.
they were dealing with injuries. They are also dealing with injuries. All right, Justin. Tough task, but first we will take a commercial break, and I will filibuster for a little bit because I remembered that I have to do something for this commercial break.
We would like to thank our sponsors. You're listening to The Scrimmage. Our sponsors are the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz and Spivey Realty Group.
All right, commercial break. Spivey Realty Group's goal is to make buying, selling, investing, and renting real estate in Grace Harbor simple. They believe in 100% transparency and unparalleled communication with local expertise, tech-enhanced, and top-notch service for their friends, neighbors, and community. Their goal is simple: to get a group of strong-willed, hardworking people together who want to make a difference in Grace Harbor and to use real estate as the means of achieving that. Voted Grace Harbor's best real estate company. Find them on Facebook or visit graceharborrealestate.com. Spivey Realty Group, elevating small town real estate.
Probably elevating and evaluating.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. Doing a great job there. We absolutely appreciate them sponsoring us because, again, remember, the way we view this is they're not sponsoring, they're supporting us in our efforts to support local athletics. So really, they're supporting local athletics.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that because they need support. Anyway, Here we go.
Gabe Bodwell.
Gabe Bodwell.
Gabe
Damn.
Bodwell.
Justin's Matt Damon.
That's Justin's Matt Damon. Is that what somebody commented?
No, I just thought that.
What's Matt Damon?
Oh, it's
Have you seen Team America World Police?
Yeah.
You shouldn't
No.
see it. It's a very offensive movie that
Yeah.
no one should like.
yeah. No one should like it.
Matt Damon in that movie, not the real Matt Damon, a puppet called Matt Damon.
Just screams Matt Damon the whole
Matt
time.
Damon.
Just yells it the whole time. So that's kind of what you do for Gabe Bodwell. You just
But
yell his name.
Well, I yell his name and I advocate for him. And I'm continuously met with resistance from the other people in this room. So
My dad has some strong takes that apparently about the Blazers.
Yeah.
That we're gonna have to get to after this. And
Okay,
it's
in the mailbag?
Blazers
Yeah,
talk in
it's
the
even
mailbag.
more fun because he accidentally texted them to my mom, who then passed them on to
We
me.
have a late nomination for the entire Montesano offensive line.
Ooh, I see what Francis is doing there. He's trying to take credit away from Gabe Bodwell.
That's ridiculous.
Because if the offensive line itself is a nominee, that's got to take away from the performance for Gabe Bodwell.
As much as I want to really say, like, really commend the efforts of the offensive line, Cohen Anderson, Jeremiah Kersey, Seth Caton, Nathan, Dowler,
there you go.
Camden
Ooh.
Taylor, and Peyton Domashevitz, no relation.
What's the J stand for?
I would like to I would like to say Gabe Bodwell is a wrecking ball, regardless of who's blocking for him.
Came in like a wrecking ball.
Is that's a song by that chick who's dating Travis
Kelce, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's by that other person.
Well, they're basically the
Yeah.
same.
Anyway.
So
So yes, Gabe Bodwell is a nominee. So is Marcus Hale from Aberdeen football. Isaac Schluter from Raymond South Bend. He had a monster game. So did Ethan Camus for Elma football. Alexia Bradley for Ocosta volleyball. Kylie Wisdom for Montesano volleyball. Faith Prosh for Hoquiam volleyball. Valerie Echeverria for Elma soccer. Bristol Toll for Ocosta soccer, if she's a real person. Jane Roloff. What? She's cyborg? Is that what we landed on for her? Is she a
we
cyborg?
did give her that
doesn't
nickname,
stop
but then we
running.
also kind of gave the nickname to someone else. So then I think we just said
Right.
Jane never stops running. Because remember, we imagined that when Jane is in class at
Yeah.
Hoquiam High School, that everyone else has a desk and she has a treadmill.
Yes.
and she just runs while everyone else is sitting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She breaks the rule. Isn't there a physics rule where like everything has a certain amount of energy that will like run out? Like you can't have a constantly moving thing or something like that.
Entropy?
I don't know. And Andrew's gonna try and translate my gobbledygook that I just spewed out of my mouth into something that's a thing. So I appreciate that.
You tried to just bring science
I
into
know.
the show.
It's
We don't do that
That is
here.
a bad job by me.
Yeah.
And Baylor Ainsworth and Charlie Ansich for Aberdeen Golf. Also Tiago for Grace Harbor Golfs FC and Hannah for Grace Harbor Golfs FC, not FV. Wow, we got a lot to get to. I think
Gabe Bodwell?
Gabe Bodwell should be the athlete of the week,
Really?
along with
Bristol Toll?
along with Bristol Toll, and
Oh,
along
you
with
said you had this compromise.
yeah. I think it should be Gabe Bodwell is our football athlete of the week.
Okay.
Bristol Toll should be our soccer athlete of the week.
Yeah.
And Jane Roloff should be our cross country athlete of the week.
Sounds like I'm making a lot of graphics.
Yep.
That sounds. I'm in favor of this. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm not.
This is
sorry.
actually 100% my fault because I texted our group
Yeah.
that we have so many athletes of the week, we should do one for each sport.
And I'm not quite going there because
Not-
there are more sports.
Yeah.
I'm not going with volleyball, and I'm not going with golf.
Really, volleyball is probably the most fun to play sport here. They should get an athlete of the week too.
Is that because you don't want to play football because you don't want to get hit?
No,
Because I would play
it's
football over
because
volleyball.
Getting hit is.
I would
fun.
watch football over any of that because
Coach Daniel says 5 goals in a match. Yeah, Bristol had 6. Sorry, Coach Daniel. Bristol had 6 for the 3rd time this year.
And you know what,
Also
though?
a
Like,
grader.
She's also doing the equivalent of playing up 4 age groups.
well, that's
quite.
that's essentially what Mauricio did.
Yeah, that's true.
When he played for the Goals U19 team.
Yeah.
But-
Daniel says respect.
Yeah. So, but Tiago though.
Tiago.
Respect to Tiago Ruiz.
If I went also for, if I split soccer into boys and girls,
Yeah.
then Tiago would be the boys soccer athlete of the week.
It's
I'm just going to keep throwing athletes of the week out here.
So we did this.
I'm just going to make Justin's job real hard.
We did this with Jesse
I feel
Gilbert
like
in the
Justin should
spring.
make a lot of graphics.
We made Jesse Gilbert the athlete of the week in the spring like 3 times when we weren't even sure she was real.
That's true.
So like now
I think we're pretty sure she's not real, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'm leaning
I
towards
still haven't met her.
I'm leaning towards she's a real person. I'm leaning towards Jesse Gilbert's a real person.
Okay.
But I don't think that has done anything to make me feel like Bristol Toll is a real person. Because who, as an 8th grader playing against varsity people, scores 6 goals? Hold on. Scores 6 goals 3 times!
I know. Silly.
Seems selfish.
Yeah. Francis said, Daniel says, does she want to be a gull? Sounds like you need to recruit her, man. You get on that. And then Francis says, Jane has the fastest 5K time in school history. How many other rushers in Monty history have more yards than Gabe? Oh, dang it. I have to leave again.
And, Daniel's gone, so I can do whatever I want.
Oh, no!
This is absolutely perfect. So Gabe Bodwell, by the way, has now scored 3 touchdowns in 3 consecutive games and has multiple touchdowns in each of Montesano's 5 wins this season. He had, in addition to his 10-plus yards per carry this week when he got over 130 yards on just 13 carries. In the previous 2 games, he had 190 yards in each game. So Gabe Bodwell, really week after week, proving what an absolute beast he is, and he 100% deserves he deserves to be the sole Spivey athlete of the... Daniel's
Did you
back.
answer that question, though, Justin? How many other rushes in Monty history have more yards than Gabe?
Well, I mean, the season's not over yet, but
That's
I
not
don't
important,
think
Daniel.
he's on pace to break
Daniel,
that record
Justin
either.
is supposed to be answering.
Are
Oh,
you
sorry.
trying to give Francis some kind of credibility? Because he doesn't have any.
Coach Daniel has already pointed out that it was an excellent point.
Okay. Well,
Well, Jane deserves at least a share of the athlete of the week this week. If you want to make the argument that she should be the sole recipient, I will take that argument, but
okay, Grizzly man.
But I think, hey, remember how I started this out? Do you want me to rescind my nomination for Gabe Bodwell? I said he should be the athlete of the week this week, and now you're trying to ruin it.
I think that was a hustle. And you were trying to make sure you got your Grizzly in there. And you were like, hey, while I'm also making sure that I get my Grizzly in there, I'm going to throw in a Wildcat just to, throw him off a little bit.
Hey, you're the one who keeps bringing up the fact that she's an 8th grader who scored a double trick 3 times this year.
Because it's crazy.
It is, okay, so you think it should be just her and not Gabe Bodwell?
No, Gabe Bodwell.
That's what I thought.
This is so hard.
This is ridiculous.
Are we going to week after week just continuously have all these athletes that are so deserving and not be able to give all of them an award?
It's rough, right?
Yeah.
But
This
it's
week feels,
also awesome.
this week feels particularly difficult.
And we've said that the last 3 weeks, and yet it's gotten worse every week.
It has gotten. I didn't think it could get much worse than what last week was.
I know, exactly.
And I think you would think we would be happy that all of these local kids are just doing all these great things. While last week when I listened back to the show, I listened to myself rant for 2 minutes about, could you guys please stop? Could you guys please do less good things so we don't have these kind of conflicts?
I agree.
I disagree.
I
want to give out more athletes of the week.
Just because, you know what? I actually don't mind that because it just means more work for Justin.
That's right.
But also,
I think we
I'm
should
just
have
going to throw this
20
out here.
every week.
Just because this is an argument that I continue to hear from Monty people about previous athletes of the week, You did that against a garbage team, so maybe Gabe Bodwell shouldn't, because as we've established, Shelton is really bad, right?
I mean, you gave Xander Jump the award against Vancouver.
I know, but you told me that was a bad move because they were a bad team. So that should be a de-escalator for Gabe Bodwell, going by your own argument.
I lost that argument. I did a bad job.
Oh, I just wanted to go there. That completely.
Their name is the Crappers. Fart Vancouver. And I realized too that that's so rude that we're just piling on a team that's already really bad.
I know.
That's rude of you.
It is rude.
We have never claimed to be an impartial podcast.
That's true.
We are a Grays Harbor podcast.
And Pacific County.
Yes, also.
Yep. All right. So what do you think
thank
about...
God we don't have a Raymond South Bend Raven as Athlete of the Week this week.
It was getting ridiculous.
And you know what? It's crazy, too, because Isaac Schluter
totally
could have had it.
Yeah, that's a good point. He might be a snub this week.
He might be a snub.
Yeah.
He had a great week. Actually, so did Austin Snodgrass. And Farrell Johnson. What are they putting in the water in Raymond and South Bend?
I don't know.
Steroids?
Go fast juice.
Fluoride?
Probably something to do with oysters, knowing that area. All right, so are we good with my proposition?
Yes.
Or do we want to fight each other for other people?
Let's fight each other for different reasons and go ahead and just name all of our athletes of the week.
Okay, so our athletes of the week are Gabe Bodwell, Jane Roloff, and Bristol Toll. So, do you want to talk about Gabe Bodwell and why he's the athlete of the week?
I already did.
Okay.
You were out of the room.
All right. Well, Jane Roloff is the athlete of the week for not only coming in first place in a massive, massive cross-country meet this week, but also setting Hoquiam's record for a 5K school record of all time of history. Jane Roloff now owns that for the 5K. And Bristol Toll for her third double trick is now what I'm calling it. A double hat trick, 6 goals.
Don't do the word mashup on that.
No, not going to. Thank you. A double trick, 6 goals as an 8th grader playing varsity soccer for Acosta. Whew. Congratulations. Y'all are our athletes of the week, and all are very well deserving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabe Bodwell.
Is that going to do it for our show today?
I think so.
Okay, good, because I should be doing work right now.
That's lame.
Yeah.
Work gets in the way of all the things I want to do.
The people in Napa Vine need to understand that they also live out in the woods, and sometimes they won't have power, Daniel.
I can't comment on anything like that. So, for my co-host, Justin, Babe Gobwell, Damish Evans.
Wow. And my co-host, Daniel, I should be working right now, Hargrove.
And our trusty producer, Andrew.
No Wi-Fi in the woods. Gross. The Coug fan, man.
Go Cougs. Go Cougs, go Beavs.
You've been listening to The Scrimmage. Gabe Bodwell.